A 7-year-old child in Gaza has just died, not from an explosion, but from something quieter, hunger. The world watches rockets light up the sky. But who listens when children cry themselves to sleep with nothing in their stomachs? If your child was born in Gaza today, would they be allowed to cry from hunger? Or would they learn to starve silently because crying doesn't change anything? A story that demands to be felt, not just heard. We live in a time when information pours into our lives from every direction, but strangely, our hearts are drying up. We scroll past war, pain, and starvation like they're plot points in a movie that's gone on too long. We shake our heads, we move on. But some stories demand that we stop, that we listen, that we feel. Today, Mindful Way Television asks you to do just that. Not to take sides, not to judge, but to pause and breathe. And hold a little space in your heart for the children whose lives are being shaped and often erased by war, neglect, and hunger. This isn't a story about statistics. This is about real children, real families, real silence. The kind of silence that comes when no food arrives, when there is no doctor, when the crying stops, not because the pain is over, but because the child no longer has the energy to make a sound. Some say mindfulness is about peace, but here at Mindful Way, we believe mindfulness also means presence, even in discomfort. It means turning our awareness toward the things that are hard to see and choosing not to look away, especially when it involves innocent lives. Because silence, in the face of suffering, is not just stillness. It can be a form of surrender, and sometimes even complicity. So today, we begin with Gaza, with the children, with hunger, with the painful truth that some of the smallest voices in the world are going unheard. And yet, they matter. In the next section, we'll take you into the heart of the crisis to show you what life is like, moment to moment, for the children of Gaza who are trying to grow up while the world forgets them. Let's continue. Part 2. The cries we don't hear, stories the headlines. Forget this. We ended the last section with a truth too heavy to ignore, that some of the smallest, most vulnerable lives are disappearing in silence. And that silence is not just tragic, it's avoidable. Now, let us step closer. Meet Nour. She's just 6 years old. Her world is a tiny, crumbling home with peeling walls and a roof that leaks when it rains. Inside, there's little warmth and even less food. Her family survives on a thin, watery bowl of porridge, a day barely enough to keep her awake in class, let alone help her grow. Once, she dreamed of becoming a doctor. She would imagine herself in a white coat healing others. But lately, her only dream is a simpler one: to eat until she's full. Then there's Youssef, a young boy who has known more loss than most adults. His mother was killed in an airstrike. His father collapsed and never got back up, worn down by years of struggle and scarcity. Youssef now lives with his grandmother, a fragile woman with tired eyes, who often skips her own meals so the boy she loves can survive another day. These are not exceptional stories. They are the rule, not the exception, in Gaza. We say, often without thinking, children are the future. But how can that be true if the children are left to fend for themselves in a place where hope has become a luxury? What kind of future are we building if we allow so many of them to be forgotten to suffer, not because the world lacks resources, but because it lacks the will to care? And perhaps the most painful question of all, what will these children grow up to believe about the world? About us? Part 3. The weight of silence. The ethical dilemma for those far away. We've just walked through the fragile world of Nour and Youssef, where the sounds of childhood have been replaced by hunger, loss, and survival. But there's another silence we need to talk about, one that comes not from Gaza, but from us. While debates rage across television screens and social media threads about who is right, who is wrong, who started what and why, there is a quieter, far more tragic reality unfolding. Children are trying to stay alive. In these wars, waged and justified by adults, it is the smallest and most innocent who bear the unbearable cost. Not just in wounds or rubble, but in memories that may never heal, in the shaping of a worldview where fear replaces trust and survival replaces childhood. And yet, for many of us watching from the comfort of distance, the instinct is to retreat, to look away, to tell ourselves it's too complicated, too far, too painful. We scroll on. We say nothing. We do nothing. But mindfulness, true mindfulness, does not look away. It doesn't bypass pain in the pursuit of inner peace. It stays. It listens. It feels. To be mindful is not simply to be calm. It is to be present. And presence, in the face of suffering, demands more than stillness. It demands compassion. It asks us to acknowledge that being human means allowing ourselves to be touched, even by what we cannot fix. Because silence in moments like these is not neutral. Silence can carry weight. It can echo louder than words. And sometimes, silence is complicity. So we must ask ourselves, what is the cost of our silence? And what does it mean to be awake in a world that's suffering if we choose not to act? Part 4. Mindfulness in the midst of darkness. Compassion in action. As we continue this journey, we carry with us the weight of silence and the sobering realization that to remain untouched by suffering is a luxury some cannot afford. So now we ask, what does it truly mean to practice mindfulness in a world unraveling around us? Mindfulness has often been mistaken for stillness, for sitting quietly, eyes closed, breathing in and out while the world spins in chaos. But mindfulness, in its deepest form, is not about escape. It is about engagement. It is more than meditation. It is a way of living, a way of seeing the world as it is, and choosing to respond with love, not fear, with awareness, not avoidance. Being mindful does not mean turning off the news to protect our emotional state. It does not mean shutting the door on Gaza, on grief, or on injustice. It means opening that door slowly, carefully, intentionally, and standing in the threshold with eyes wide open. It is asking not, what can I gain from peace? But rather, what pain can I hold with grace? To be mindful is to feel deeply, not just our own emotions, but the echoes of others' pain. It's to hear the stories of Gaza's children and not dismiss them as distant tragedies, but to let their voices settle in our chest like a sacred responsibility. The lesson from Gaza is not solely about bombs or borders. It's a test of our human capacity to remain open even when what we see is unbearable. It asks us, are we still capable of compassion? Have we grown too tired to care? Or can we even now lean in softly, bravely, and ask, what can I do, even if it's small? Because mindfulness without action is just observation. But mindfulness with compassion, that's where healing begins. And in the next part, we'll talk about what you can actually do, even from far away, because presence is powerful and compassion is never wasted. Let's move forward together. Part 5. Awake and aware what you can do today. After walking through the pain, silence, and mindful awakening that Gaza demands from us, we now arrive at a question that echoes in every compassionate heart. What can I do? You don't need to be powerful to make a difference. You don't need to have influence or wealth or answers to the world's complex conflicts. What you do need is something far more rare. You need to care. Care enough to stay open. Care enough to act. Because caring is not passive. It is not a thought. It is emotion. It is love turned outward. And today, even from far away, you can choose to become part of a movement of quiet, unwavering compassion. So, what does that look like? Share real stories. Asterisk, asterisk. Don't let these truths disappear into digital silence. Keep them alive. Let others see what you now see. Support humanitarian aid. Asterisk, asterisk. Find and give to organizations that are actively delivering food, medical supplies, and shelter to Gaza's children. Every donation, every dollar, becomes a thread in the safety net they so desperately need. Raise the next generation differently. Asterisk, asterisk. Teach your children empathy, not just as a value, but as a way of being. Show them that every child, no matter where they are born, deserves the same right to live, to dream, to be safe. Your small act may seem insignificant in a world filled with suffering, but to the one person it touches, to the child who receives a meal, to the mother who feels seen, to the soul who finds hope again, it can mean everything. Every time you act, you are saying, I see you. You are not forgotten. Asterisk. And perhaps most importantly, every act of compassion is a vote for the kind of world we want to live in. A world where silence is replaced with action, where indifference is replaced with empathy, and where mindfulness becomes not just a practice, but a force for healing. If you've made it this far, pause with us. Just 30 seconds. Not to cry, but to breathe. Place your hand gently over your heart and feel that it is still beating, that you are still here, that you still have the power to care. What is happening in Gaza is not just a tragedy, it is a mirror, a question held up to the rest of us. What kind of world are we building if we let the youngest among us suffer in silence? This isn't only a humanitarian crisis, it's a spiritual one, a test of our shared humanity. The world is not short on suffering, it is short on hearts that are truly awake. But if yours is open now, even just a little, let that openness move you. Let it ripple outward, because a single act of compassion can become the beginning of a tidal wave of change. This is not about blame, it's about presence. This is not about despair, it's about choice. So, if this message touched you, please like this video, share it with someone, and subscribe to Mindful Way Television, asterisk, asterisk. Not for us, but for the children whose voices are fading, for the truth that must be heard, for the awareness we must continue to grow. And if this video sparked something in you, a thought, a feeling, a question, leave us a comment. Your words matter. Your presence matters. We are building something here, slowly, gently, a space for reflection, for truth, for mindful action. And we can't do it without you. And if your heart is still open, we invite you to watch our next video. Because this journey of awakening, it doesn't end here. It only deepens. Note, for a world where no child dies of hunger and where compassion is no longer rare, but natural, with love and presence,